Hey, what's going on? I'm Chip Dizard. I am a corporate and headshot photographer out of Washington, D.C., and you're listening to the Workflow Photography's podcast.
Hi, Chloe. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I always love these because, we're talking before we hit record anyway. So when I have to say, hey, Chloe, it's like...
And I'm like, great.
Yeah, like we haven't done this yet. So you're kicking off season 4 with me of the podcast. We have new artwork for the show, which I'm going to show you after we stop recording because it's beautiful.
I love that.
We just wrapped up, actually, the date we're recording this right now, we just wrapped up the artwork today, so it's done. Yep. And I'm really excited about this, not only kick off season 4, but to have you to help me kick off season 4. So
I'm so honored.
Really fun. Yeah. Nikon Photographers Unite for season 4. So I want to start with talking about something that you mentioned has been working really well in your workflow, and that is like pre-planning your sessions. Now, I'm assuming this is more or less on the wedding side, more on the family side and other things, but can you talk about like the mood board aspect, the visioning and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're correct. For weddings, we really are matching their vision with your artistic flow. So it is a little bit different and maybe a bit more straightforward. But for me, with any of my creative shoots or just family or portraits, I do some branding now as well. Pre-visualizing, which sounds kind of like woo-woo and weird, really helps me. I'm an artist, so we're leaning into the woo-woo part a little bit. Music's always been really important to me. So matching a song or something that will help me meditate is very helpful. And by meditate, I don't mean like I'm sitting there going om or whatever. I'm just like in my car driving to the shoot. It could be as little as that. Just really focusing in on the posing I might want to do, the storytelling. I can really see things in my head, which is maybe a really great thing to have and not good for other things. But I can really picture the shoot before it happens. And before we get to that point, like driving in the car, like meditating, I make a little mood board because sometimes the ideas are not flowing, or maybe your client's vision is really not something that you particularly are inspired by. So really getting into it. One of the tools I use, is it okay to mention another company's name?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just Pinterest. Everyone uses Pinterest. But I use it to make mood boards. So there's a feature on there and a lot of people don't know about it. They're like, where are you making these mood boards? They're so cool. I'm like, it's just Pinterest. You just click on the collage button and you can go to a particular board. So I always make a board for any of my creative shoots. I just did a Y2K one for someone's 30th birthday. It was really fun. And I was going through just old posing, old lighting setups for the studio. And then that can be just bunch of random inspiration, right? So going in there and just selecting the ones that fit the vision are so helpful, especially for people who are visual like ourselves, photographers. That can be a really, really great tool. And just seeing that, and then music on the way to my shoot, just getting me pumped up, ready for the shoot is just another part of that.
Really interesting as I am listening to you, but also I see you, right? And you've got a board behind you with a bunch of photos.
Oh, yes.
Right? And I'm looking at it and you're talking and you're like, I use Pinterest. I'm like, you look like the type of person who would physically make a board, right? Now,
Yes.
I'm guessing pre-Pinterest, you probably physically made a board, but do you every so often still physically make a board?
Yes. So I run a very small workshop called Shadow and Light, which is for people who want to get better at directing over posing. Turn your head this way till I want you to really get into the moment with your couple, as well as using artificial light. It's where the shadow and light comes into play. So I make these boards if it's not a travel workshop. If it's a travel workshop, it's really hard to travel with that. I'll just send it to them prior. But this is great. I just put it up there and we can reference it. And this is maybe kind of going off topic here, but maybe not, is a lot of times we feel like we have to rush through our session because then our clients might be onto us. They might be onto us that we don't really know what we're doing, but we're artists, we're creators. We have to stop and pause. So if I'm going to stop and pause and look at my inspiration board, that's just part of the creative process. That's not me not knowing what I'm doing. It's just me recentering and making sure that I have the storyline correct. I'm not missing one of the lighting setups, things like that.
Yeah. I kind of feel like in a way, so there's the app Unscripted, right? Where you can find your prompts to get the poses you want. And I have a horrible memory. So for me, I love being able to set up a shoot, what they call a shoot. I hate using the word shoot. I like to use session, but and attach like the different prompts that you want to use for that client, and then I can quickly just pull it up on my phone. It's kind of a similar approach where you're not cheating in a way. You're not like,
No.
you know, you're doing what you need to do to get the job done even better. And over time, doing it over and over again, you're going to memorize the prompts. But there's so many that you could do that, you know, nobody can absorb all of it and remember all of it.
Absolutely. And that's why I love this podcast. So for me, having a scripted response does not work with me because I'm better off the cuff. Like when you made me read that little thing earlier, little promo thing, I was like, I'm going to read it exactly how it is. So I make sure I get it right. But for me, it's just, I'm more of a conversationalist. So getting to know my client in real time and just being present with them without the distractions and just trusting my gut with that one thing works for me. But that's why I like this podcast, because I listened to a few, I listened to Jerry's, my friend Elena's, and I'm like, wow, we all do things similarly, but different. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful as an artist. And someone starting out can go, wow, that really resonated with me. Where another person would be like, I live and die by those unscripted things. I can't imagine my life without them. Well, they're both right. Nobody's wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't do it for every client, that's for sure. But what I did a proposal, it was right before Christmas, I believe. And I knew the location perfectly. I knew where it was going to be. And it's not a location I go to often, but it's tourist trap right in the New York City skylines in the background. So it's a tourist trap.
In the perfect location for the touristy things. Yes.
Yeah. And it was where this was a park where the tours for the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island take off. Like the boats leave from the spot. So there's like huge crowds. I knew what I wanted, and I knew I wanted to experiment with a couple shots that I've never experimented with before, and I knew that was a perfect place. So I like studied like those frames prior. They weren't prompts. They were just like, I knew where I want to position that couple and how. And actually in the Imagen community, I don't remember the date. It might be a February post I'm going to be doing this, but it's good because this episode's coming out in February. There will be a post where I share my thought process, one of the 3 decisions I had to make for this photo. And this came from me studying what I wanted to do ahead of time, this pre-visualization, to then make it happen. And then I had to make the decision of, what do I show the client? Do I show them the perfectly in focus of what they would expect, or do I show them the blurry that they are not expecting, that I think is the stellar of the 3. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's trusting your gut as an artist, right? That is so, I don't give 1,000 photos. I cull pretty tight. And so I make those choices for my clients. It sounds like you do as well. Yeah. And that is such a cool thing. Yeah. That's definitely one. Though I know they probably want this one, and you can always flip it in the gallery, but what am I choosing to share because I want to attract these clients that are going to trust my gut as an artist?
Yep.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah, I have another one coming up at the end of January. So we're recording this beginning of January, but I have another proposal coming up at the end of January that the location is in Princeton, New Jersey, not at the university. I do a lot of proposals at the university, though.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
This couple actually met while being students at Princeton University, and they used to go for long hikes through what's called Battleview State Park. It's Princeton Battleview State Park. It's actually the location where George Washington was killed in the Revolutionary War.
Whoa.
And and where George Washington was killed is an oak tree was planted that's giant now. And there's this, what they call a colonnade. Never knew what that was until I looked up that word. Colonnade is like
don't know it either.
Yeah, so it's basically, it just looks like a whole bunch of columns connected at the top and bottom. That's it.
Oh, I can visualize that. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's freestanding in the middle of this wide open field, and I'm like, oh man, I can have fun with this. So that's where the proposal is happening, in that spot.
That's so epic. Yes, I love that.
Yep. And
I'm going to know now when I see it.
Yeah. It's a little morbid, the fact that it's like where George Washington was killed, but at the same time, it's also beautiful at the same time. So
I think it's a juxtaposition there, right? It's like rich in history, and they made something beautiful out of it. And I think that's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you just mentioned a little while ago about having your artistic choices in what you show your clients. So let's talk about the second thing that's been going well for you. You mentioned that's, from your whole workflow, basically from downloading the photos from your camera to culling, editing, and delivery. Can you give us an overview of what that looks like and how that's changed for you? Yeah.
So it really has drastically changed in the last few years, pretty much post pandemic. I feel like that's going to be our, measure now, as artists is it pre-pandemic or post-pandemic? I'm like, I was at home, I was a single mom at the time, and I was at home with my kids, just like really trying to make everything work because I had a kindergartner that was on a Zoom who couldn't read. And I'm like, there goes my computer. So I had to streamline a little bit. And of course, it was the perfect time to get a puppy. I got a puppy. And it was also a perfect time to really, let me go through with a fine tooth comb and just get rid of the excess. So what I've kind of landed on, and of course, it wasn't perfect. I feel like you hear these things and you're like, wow, she figured it out in an afternoon. No, it was like trial and error, making sure, I've got all my ducks in a row. But basically, after my shoot, I go ahead and I upload. Is it download? Yeah,
I say download.
I use them interchangeably, and it's probably all wrong. I download my images and I back them up on an external hard drive, and then it's just going on the cloud as well. And then I don't touch them. I was listening to Susan's Striplings, and she was like, I cull immediately. And I was like, that's such a good idea. And then I tried it. I was like, hey, I can't do it. And I think that's what's so, like we talked about earlier, it's just so great to hear everyone's point of view. I give it a day, not much longer. I mean, if I shoot on Saturday, I have very strict hours because we have a family of 7, including my husband and I. So the weekend, I try my best to we're already spilling over into the weekend. So anything I can do to protect our time is sacred to me. So I'll do it Monday, during office hours. I'll go ahead and cull. I manually cull. I know Imagen has different options, and I do like them, but there's just something in me that's, I gotta do it myself. I think I like it. I like curating. So that's really fun for me.
That's the artist in you too.
Totally. So I'll go ahead and curate the gallery, pull it into Lightroom. I just kind of look through, make sure there's not any extras. I don't want to pull more into Imagen than I need to. Like I said, I very much curate that gallery myself. I'll pull it into Imagen. They've got the cloud feature, which is great. That makes me feel so good. Then I'll just save one of the memory cards because I'm crazy. Even during busy season, I'll just buy more memory cards just so I have that extra.
Oh, so you save your memory cards per client.
Yes, I'm insane. So I back up to the cloud on my computer. I have an external hard drive, and then I back up through Imagen, and I just feel like it's such a perfect safety net. I never want to have an accident. I had something happen a long time ago where I don't know what happened. It was like corrupt card or something, and it was before we had the dual slots, and I lost some of the family photos from the wedding. And luckily it was for a family member. So it wasn't a huge deal. I could just recreate it another day, which they chose not to. They're like, it doesn't matter. Those aren't the ones we want. And I got very, very lucky, but I never, ever want to be in that situation again. So I have a little safety net. After that, I put it in the queue. So I am not a high volume photographer, but like most photographers, we have our slow season and then we have our busy season. So although I'm not high volume, they do come in clusters. So there'll be one, June is a big month for weddings and for families before they travel or before sports start, all those things. So June is pretty busy, and then August, September, October, November. That's like my year right there. So I'll put it in the queue, and I know now that after I run it through Imagen that it has all my basic editing in there. I am like a super high touch editor, so I'll go through, I'll just make sure it's correct, and I have my profile dialed in now, which is great. And then I also pull into Photoshop and do retouching on skin. If it's a creative shoot for weddings, I do not do that unless it is the portrait part of the gallery or people, if it's weird lighting and I need to correct something. But for the most part, I do not do that unless they pay extra, because that would be insane. Wedding galleries are huge. Yeah, after that, as soon as I'm done, I use Pixie Set. I just drop them in Pixie Set. write them a cute little note. If it's a wedding, I curate into folders so they can find an image really easily. I used to get emails like, where's that one image you posted? And I'm like, okay, it's number, But if it shows like getting ready, portraits, family photos, they can easily find those photos. Yep. And that is it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the sets or series or whatever, each gallery solution calls it something else. Very, very handy. Even like for the proposals that I do, I have 3 that are pretty much in every gallery. Walking,
oh yes,
proposal, and then engagement photos after, right? So I have 3. Sometimes, like the one coming up at the end of January, I may not be able to do a walking because of this. There's nowhere for me to hide and capture them walking in this.
You just surprised.
Park.
Yeah.
We have a plan in place. I'm going to have a tripod and look like I'm a wildlife photographer shooting the colonnade or the birds or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's otherwise like those are so handy. So that way the client can just click and go to where they want to see to figure out what they want to look at and what they want to buy or whatever.
Yeah. And how fun to have the engagement session right after so they can share photos right away, like that.
Oh yeah. I
remember getting engaged and being like, wait, I wish I had a cool photo of us to share and to have proposal and a few portraits that you like. That's great.
Yep. Yeah. It's this proposal photography. There's not big money in it, but it's high stress for about 5 minutes. Your heart is racing as the photographer because you're like, not only are you like anxious for them, but you're like for yourself, I can't F this up because if I F this up, that's it. It's done.
I don't know if my nerves can take it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's high stress. So, but trying to over deliver. So I have action cameras connected all over me so I can get behind the scenes video for them as well. So I do a lot of value add for what they're paying for. Way more work than what I'm making for them, but they're fun and
do people ever try and convince you to be their wedding photographer, like after seeing their proposal?
Yes, but I don't like doing weddings. I take weddings every so often. They have to be really special. And I refer a lot of weddings to different photographers. So,
they probably love that.
Yeah. I was actually in the middle of a proposal. You said like things come in waves, right?
Oh.
Thanksgiving. That I had a proposal the day after Thanksgiving and a proposal the day after that. And both were in the same general area. One was on Princeton University. And right after I was done, I'm walking back to my car and I sent a text to Charmy and I was like, I got a wedding client for you. It's like the perfect couple for her. So it all works out. But anyway, I'm glad that's, that Imagen, first of all, is playing a small role in your process. But overall, I'm just glad that, through something as horrible as the pandemic was for so many people, that something good came out of it for you. And that was a puppy and,
yes.
and figuring out how to streamline this part of your workflow more. I am curious, what is one of the things that you dropped from that workflow when you did fine tune this?
Chaos. I've been shooting. Yeah, I've been shooting forever, pretty much straight out of high school. But I started my business in 2010. My oldest is 15 now. So it's been a while that I've been professionally shooting. And I just was sort of flying by the seat of my pants because I wasn't getting that many clients. I was new. I was a baby myself with a baby. So I just really was just whatever worked for me that day. And I have ADHD, so my brain kind of likes that. I like a little flexibility because who knows if I'm going to be in the mood to do this. But I've found as I get older that structure is the key for success for me. If I don't have these workflows in place, I am just a lost little excited puppy. I'm excited by this today, so I'm going to go do this. And nothing ever finishes, right? The tasks never finish. And then I wait to the last second and I'm procrastinating. So and in a way that does sometimes happen. I'm not perfect. So that's why I have the queue. So if I choose to wait to the last second, well, at least all of my basic edits are done and it's cold because that's the bulk of it, right? Let's be honest. Going through and fine tuning at this point in my career is fun and easy for me. So it kind of takes away the procrastination aspect or the stress of that and gives me a little structure.
And now with all the new additional AI tools that are inside of Imagen, for example, like the smooth skin feature, which came out a while back, like now where you might have manually had to do that for every photo. Previously, now you could do it in a click and then do some final touch-ups instead of taking the time to do it in the first place and then refine it. Now you can just refine it.
Yeah. Do you know what my favorite of the new features is? And I don't know if it's still beta or I'm bad at keeping up with that, but it's the teeth whitening. It looks so great.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I photographed my daughter and her friends, and one of them had the Frappuccino, and she was like super worried. I'm like, oh, don't you worry, girl. It's going to be fine.
I got you. Click.
Yeah. And some teeth whitening can look really extreme, and you don't want that. So I love that one. That is amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome. So my go-to, I was just talking to the product team earlier today that my go-to for every client job is straighten, smooth skin, teeth whitening every time.
Oh, same. Yeah.
Yeah. Saves me so much time. So speaking about stuff that you cut out and chaos, you also mentioned to me that one area where you're struggling and you're working on coming up with a solution for and making it better overall is emails. Right.
It's definitely chaotic still.
with even low volume, right? I'm also low volume, just like you.
Yeah.
But still, you gotta keep up with them. And as a solo photographer, it is difficult. So share with me, what do you have going on related to emails and how are you solving that problem?
I have a system that I've been using for a while, and I know you were saying I was listening, and it's a dyslexia, right? And I feel like ADHD can be there's some similarities sometimes with that. And so for me, I'm an excited little puppy, and I'll read something. I'm like, oh yeah, I got this text from my friend. Absolutely. I've said it in my mind to them, but I am, at a stop sign and I should be looking at my phone because my kids are like, Mom, you don't look at your phone while you're driving, things like that. So I'm like, okay, I'll get to that when I'm home. Well, a lifetime has happened since I got that text. Out of sight, out of mind. It's the same thing with my emails. I am genuinely pretty much know when I get an inquiry whether I'm going to want to be their photographer or not, right? I'm very, like yourself, I'm very specific about who I take on because at this point in my life, like if something's weird in there, I'm like, I'm going to refer you out, right? It's not a good fit. But they don't know that. And maybe I've sat on it for 24, 48 hours. Well, that doesn't sound like much time. That used to be the window of time that you could respond, which was perfect for me. But now it's instant. Everything's instant.
Yeah.
And so if I don't respond by that evening, I could have lost that client to another photographer who's equally great. I mean, I love that about our industry. I don't feel threatened by amazing other photographers. I feel inspired by them. So they should get that. They worked hard to get that lead, congratulations. But for me, being one of the breadwinners in the family, okay, like I need to make sure I'm on it. And if I really like that lead, need to automate. So HoneyBook, I have a little automation like that lets them know I'll be responding to them within 24 hours. I'm really excited to talk to them, or they can schedule a call right from there. So that's one little thing I've done. It's a little weird because it's like a canned response, but I think people understand at least my inquiry went through, right? It's not just a little pop-up that they could have missed. At least there's some touch point and then they have that email ready to go if they want to be like, hey, we moved in a different direction, or hey, can we do a phone call? I prefer phone calls, something like that. But it's not great. Another thing I do, if it's like Gmail, it's like a past client, they'll just email me directly and not go through an inquiry form, which makes sense. I'll just star the email immediately and I won't open it. Or if I open it, I star it and I go through my starred ones every morning and make sure. I will say it is a work in progress over the holidays. I'll just apologize. I'm so sorry, about the delay. Everyone understands. There's this no man's land that happens after, Christmas or whatever holiday, and until now, basically today. That's why I was running late today. I was just like, okay, it's my actual Monday today, even though it's Tuesday. Anyways, that was a long explanation, but it's not going great, Scott.
Yeah. I am right there with you with the same mindset of, oh, a text came in or an email came in. I need to reply to this, but then I can't for whatever I was doing. Right. And it is in my head. It's, I have to reply to that. I have to reply to that. I have to reply to that.
It's important.
Yeah. And then you have to figure out your ways to remind yourself to reply the next day. I use Apple reminders for everything and Apple Notes for everything. So for me, it's reply to so-and-so name in Apple reminders, for the next day at whatever time. And it's whether I'm on the laptop or the desktop or my phone or whatever it is, it's popping up. It's in my face, right? I'm seeing it. I then have to go do it. I will say for myself, similar to you where you're setting things up in HoneyBook, I've been using Sprout Studio for years, but I haven't fully set up the email automation in Sprout because I've been doing it in Flowdesk for
I love
emails.
Flowdesk. Yes.
I love it, but I'm trying to use Sprout more since it's my CRM aspect to handle the email automation for the leads. And so that's part of my 2025 goals is get that in place, similar to you with HoneyBook.
Oh, I would pay someone good money to just do it for me. That's another outsourcing. Set up my HoneyBook so it works for how I work.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who do it.
I should probably look into that. Each other, our businesses are going to be flawless, Scott. We're going to have it all figured out.
Yeah. My favorite, okay, 2 perfection quotes. One is from my karate school, and that is strive for perfection because there is no perfection. You can just keep working towards it.
Yeah.
And that is like on our banner in Japanese, it says strive for perfection, but we can't read it when we're standing there because we don't know Japanese. We just know that's what it says. The other is from my favorite college professor. I went to college for photography technology. His was oh man, I forgot what it was. Holy smokes. It's not perfection. It's another P word and I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, it's like the consistency is like getting it consistent, but with a word that starts with a P instead of perfection. Like that's where you want to be. Yeah. Because there is no perfection. It's just what can you do better and how can you repeat that so that you do it better all the time.
Oh, so, totally.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't remember the word, I totally understand what you're saying. But
yeah.
Like my mind works that way too. I'll be so excited that I'm almost too excited to share it and I've forgotten everything.
And I've totally said the quote so many times and for some reason I'm drawing a blank.
That's fine.
But yeah, so this has been a lot of fun. I love talking about all this stuff and inspiring others to look at what they're doing in their businesses and see what are they doing. What are they doing? Because I'm not going to say anybody's doing anything wrong, but what are they doing? What could they do better? And what tools or mindset could they get in, whether it's visualizing with physical or digital boards, whether it's going over your entire workflow. I mean, now is the perfect time when people have a lot of downtime from the holidays to go over your entire workflow and figure it out.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm actually writing
plans.
Post right now, some education around like why branding photos is really important during the winter months and just kind of going through your workflow, going through what your brand looks like to the outside, getting some feedback there and why that's important in January, February. It's just a great time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Chloe, do you have anything going on? Keep in mind, this is airing early February. Do you have anything going on that you want to share with everybody listening? Any events you're speaking at? Anything you want them to check out?
Yeah, definitely. So I have that private workshop I mentioned earlier. It's called Shadow and Light. It's going to be at the studio space in Sacramento that I rent. It's a very cool kind of collective that I'm a part of. And it's April 12th. We just set the date. Very excited. So that's going to be fun. And then I think it's March, it's WPPI, which is one of my absolute favorite conferences to speak at. This year, I am doing a photo walk, which I am very excited about. It's on couples posing. We're going to bring in some pro photo lights and really play with some artificial light as well. So that'll be really fun. And then, of course, I'm sure I'll be at the Imagen booth, which is always so fun. I love yapping. I'm a yapper, so it's so fun to talk to people on the showroom floor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to have at Imaging USA and WPPI, we will have a bunch of people from our product team at both events hanging out. So
I love that.
Yeah. So for those listening, for those watching, if you're at the events, don't be shy to share your feedback, share your feature requests. They're going straight to the people who need to hear it. So
that's so great because oftentimes they'll ask me a question and I'm like, it's magic. Let me talk to Scott. Let me connect you with Scott because he knows all the technical questions.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. I also want to mention for everybody listening that Imagen now has out. I don't know if it'll still be in beta by the time this airs or if it will be out of beta, but Background Mask is now available in the Imagen app for everybody to try. So we now have subject mask and background mask. You can put them both on. You can put one on. It's totally up to you. And you are in complete control over what is done in that mask. So.
That background mask I'm pretty excited about because it'll add a lot of drama. I love that. Yeah.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Yeah.
So, Chloe, again, thank you so much for joining me. I'll be sure to include your site and all that stuff in the show notes for everybody to check out. And I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you at WPPI and maybe Imaging USA.
Yes, maybe. This has been great, Scott. Thank you so much.
You have been listening to the Workflows Photography Podcast. To hear more from Workflows, to learn more about our guest, and for an exclusive offer for Workflows listeners, please go to workflowspodcast.com. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.